All right, we're rolling with Mark Kelso. We're here at the Four Seasons Center, downtown Toronto. Beautiful fall day. Mark's playing down here a little bit later. First question for Mark is, how have your Northern Irish roots informed your views towards injustice, violence, and love throughout your life? Did this background foster any political aspirations towards activism, or were you pushed the other way? And how come? That's a very heavy question to start off with.
I thought this was a music interview.
Oh, we'll get there.
Wow. I mean, I left there when I was 9 years old, right?
Yeah.
So,
When was that?
72.
72, you were 9. Okay.
So I was 9 years old. My parents, that was the height of the Troubles.
Yeah.
So my parents wanted to get out of there. My dad, being a musician, had been around the world, been to some really cool places. And
Were they, coming from a long lineage of Irish,
well, yeah, I mean, we're British, sort of Protestant in the north.
right?
So we were on the orange side, as it were.
Yeah.
And my dad, being a musician, just played with Catholic musicians all the time. And so they were interacting, and he just thought, this is kind of ridiculous that this is all happening. This Irish-British thing and the Protestant Catholic thing. Man, we're in a band and we get along fine, and we're just playing music. So
This is the late
I guess
60s that he's feeling this way?
This is the late 60s, for sure.
Yeah.
Late 60s and into the early 70s, and they came here, and they could have gone to South Africa or Australia, and they thought, well, if we go and we don't like it, this is not as far as the other two places to get back.
Yeah.
So we can come back, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but they came here, and
Did they have family in South Africa?
No. Just at that time, that's where everybody was emigrating to.
Yeah.
From Ireland. They were taking workers and people from the United Kingdom to go to those three countries were asking for those folks.
Australia? No
Yeah,
kidding.
Yeah, and I was like, man, Australia's great. I love Australia.
Yeah.
South Africa would have been probably the whole apartheid thing. Glad we weren't really a part of that.
That would have been heavy.
But my political sense, I'm really sort of apolitical in a way.
Yeah.
But, I can't tell if it was anything to do with my Belfast roots or just growing up in Toronto, being a multicultural city,
Yeah.
and loving pretty much so many different styles of music that color or race or creed or any of that stuff.
Politics.
Yeah, it didn't really bug me. Became,
Religion.
Yeah, the religion specifically became more of a kind of a joke. Just kind of something we would make fun of,
Right.
Me and my buddies, there'd always be some kind of funny joke about the Irish or the Italians,
It is still a joke, politics.
Well, it is.
Even though it's all concerned about
Right now,
truth.
it's
Yeah.
a poor joke.
Yeah, we're talking about the scandal with Rob Ford, but
Yikes.
it's pretty funny.
But,
Yeah, it's important to talk about where we come from, I think, a little bit, because essentially you're talking about values, you're talking about culture, and if
Yeah.
we dismiss that all entirely.
oh, no, I would never want to do that.
But it sounds like you're a little too young to really.
Yeah, I mean, the weird thing was that even though I came here at 9, I had already learned how to take a machine gun apart.
Wow.
At 8. And I had already known the difference between the Union Jack and the Irish flag, which most of my life I only referred to as the Catholic flag.
Wow.
It was never put to me as the flag of the Republic of Ireland until my wife pointed that out. I was like, yeah, the Catholic flag.
Yeah.
I was in my 30s. It just was one of those things that was a carryover without really thinking too much about it.
Yeah.
Because that's the only reference I had for it. It's the only thing I knew about it.
Right.
And she sort of educated me on that. I was like, wow, you're right. I've had that such a long time. I never even gave it a second thought.
God.
So things are ingrained already at that young age. You learn things at that young age, and you go, this is the way it is. I remember it being a big deal when we moved to one of our last areas in Belfast, a place called Ballyhenry. And
Notorious area?
No. One of the first areas where it was mixed.
Okay.
My parents, I remember the kid who lived behind me, Tony Sherry, he was Catholic, and I remember that being, at that age, it was a big deal. There was a thing that he was Catholic and I was Protestant, and there was some sort of difference.
You're right.
Just
feel it.
And then when I came here, all that stuff disappeared. There was no military guarding the downtown core. You weren't being body searched when you went into a grocery store to go shopping. And
Crazy.
There weren't armed police vehicles outside controlling your street and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And all that stuff disappeared, but was still very much a big reality for all my relatives who are still there. And even in this day and age, it still goes on. And we're talking over 30 years. Right?
Let's talk about your dad. Your dad got to hang out with Elvis and Buddy Rich, and has been a professional singer, as you were mentioning, and drummer for most of his life. How much of a premium do you place on having support from one's parents, and what would you say to a musician who hasn't had that support and never will?
Well, I mean, I see definitely lots of students who come from that no support area, and it's a tough go for sure.
Sorry, we're just talking about in your teaching position at Humber and your role there. Yep.
Yeah, the students that I teach at Humber, and I talk about my dad being pretty much my major first influence, and I probably played drums because my dad played drums. There was music around and drums around, and he was a jazz fan. He was a huge Buddy Rich fan, which started me off with someone with incredibly clean and amazing technique as my first sort of pivotal influence. Buddy Rich would be the first one, when I was 12. Seeing him on The Tonight Show, or I don't think I saw him live, but listening to him on record certainly made an impression. Like, wow, that's fast and that's clean and it's amazing and it's exciting and all that great stuff that comes with it. So, having my dad there as an influence, and then of course he was like, here's Buddy Rich and here's David Garibaldi, Tower Power, and here's Powerful People by Gino Vanelli with Graham Lear, Canadian drummer. I could put those three guys down as to my first major influences alongside my dad.
No way. Wow.
He, of course, saw this. He tells me the story when I was 3 years old, and I played on the kit, or he was at a rehearsal, and he was talking. He got off the kit, and the band was playing something, and he heard ting, 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 ting. And he looked around. I climbed up onto the stool, and I was playing the drums.
Was your dad a lefty?
He was a lefty.
He was a lefty, I thought so. Okay.
Yes, so the first whole year of my life I played left-handed.
Oh, wow.
So he thought, wow, he sounds like he's in time, and he says, stop and change it to 3/4.
Oh.
Testing me right away, right? And so he did that, and then the band played in 3, and I stopped, and I knew something was different, and I started accenting the 3. So, of course, like any parent, he's like, my boy!
The 3 or the 1?
The accent the 1 of the 3
of the 3
cycle.
Yeah.
Being in 3/4, I knew there was an accent change. I wasn't just playing something totally.
And your dad just flipped out.
He flipped out, and then he started teaching me when I was 12. We went on the road with the whole family to Florida and around the United States, and I traveled through the States with him, going to school in different cities, and he started teaching me. And then he gave me like a year's worth of information in 3 months because I was eating it up. And then he burned me out. Too much, too fast, and I quit. I just threw a stick. I've had it. I'm done. It's too hard.
Right.
And I quit. And he thought, oh, I've ruined it. It's done. He's never going to play. And then, of course, when I got into sort of grade 7, and came back and settled in grade 6, grade 7. They had a band program, right? And my teacher, Mr. Phillips, Mr. Botnick, and Mr. Dan Moyer, those guys were really instrumental in fostering my love for it. I got put on saxophone, first of all, so I came home and told my dad, Dad, I'm in the band at school. And my dad's like, yes, I'm playing saxophone.
What?
What? Yeah, because I didn't want to play clarinet, but I'm going to audition for the drums as well. And then once I got on the drums, the teacher realized that I was a little bit more advanced for that time. Now, of course, you see 4-year-olds doing what I could do when I was 12.
Crazy,
This day and age, right? But
Yeah.
at that point, I was a little bit more advanced than most of the other kids in grade 7. So I got playing drums, and then I met friends who were instrumental for my rest of my life. Colin Barrett, the bass player. I met him when I was in grade 8, and he was playing bass in grade 7.
I want to pick up just on something you mentioned there about the state of the internet and just the would you agree that there isn't any more talent now per capita, I guess you could say, than there ever has been? It's just that now we're
More aware of it.
more aware of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to find somebody who can play anything on the planet, there's some virtuoso out there in the backwoods of some dusty small village somewhere, and you go, wow, it's heavy. Yeah, we didn't know about it before, and it was the whole scene was more controlled and dominated by record companies, television. They had more control. Now with the internet, it's like the Wild West. Everybody and their grandmother wants to be famous, so everybody puts up everything. So there's some crappy stuff on there, but there's a lot of good stuff. The thing I was talking about this morning with my students was I was lamenting the fact of how listening's changed and the whole science between hearing something and listening to something.
Yeah.
my experience was I'd buy one record back in the 70s, and everybody would buy that same record, Weather Report or whatever, and everybody went and got that one record, and everybody would listen to it hundreds of times. You'd have your headphones on, you listen to the record over and over and over again. So the listening was without distraction, and it was all audio. You're all using your oral sensibilities and your ears to get it. And then now, so much of it's visual, because the internet, the sound, if you're on your laptop, unless you got great speakers, the sound's not good. Headphones brought out the intricacies of all the different sounds. You could hear it, and the more you listened to it, the more repetition there was, the more you would pick things out in every given song and go, oh, I never heard that before, or that little harmony, or that little guitar part, or that little fill, or that little stick click, or whatever. You heard these things because of repetitive listening, and it was really focused listening. Now it's like you look at one video and it's 3 minutes long. You're thinking, ooh,
Yeah.
oh man, there's another thing of Steve Gadd, and oh, here's a black and white thing of Buddy. I haven't seen that. Hey, who's this cat? This guy's got 17 drums. What's it? And then there's Jens Hanneman. No.
Right.
Right. And there's all this funny stuff. But
how much of that go ahead.
We're visualizing our learning. So we're scientifically, I think it's proven that the ears are 10 times faster than the eyes.
Wow.
So when you're watching and looking at something, you're absorbing it one way, but when you listen to it, you absorb it like sort of 10 times faster.
Holy smokes.
Right?
How much of that message really sticks with the students? That
Hopefully,
in an empirical way, you can actually look at them and say, yes, they're picking up what I'm saying. Thank God.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think
Somebody's got it.
It's my job to just maybe enlighten them
Yeah.
that this potential for listening to become weakened and people will rely more on their eyes for music, to put things in a scary place musically.
Yeah, we're in such
the
a...
ears are the more important thing.
Right.
But it's like back in the day, people wanted to be great at what they did. Now people want to be famous
Yeah.
more than they want to be great.
Yeah.
So like for those reality shows and stuff like that, there's lots of great people on there regardless.
Yeah.
But it's just a different listening way. One of my mentors, who I never really met or obviously knew, but was Bruce Lee, the great martial artist.
Yeah.
So much of his stuff transcended martial arts to music for me, and it was not until years later that I realized how I was applying all these things that I was learning in martial arts classes to playing drums, and how much of the philosophy I've carried with me my whole life. And one of his major concerns was, I think on his gravestone says, "Here lies a man distorted by the classical mess."
Wow.
And for me, I take the classical mess to mean too much information.
Yeah.
And that's back in '73. So now, it's like information overload. I see kids trying to learn, and you just think, hey, man, focus on one thing. People, how many drum books have you done? I've done like 60 drum books. And yet I'll get my students, private lessons, I go, okay, here's one page. We're going to work on one page for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Just one page. But I'm going to show you ways to be creative with one page that aren't in the book. That the book doesn't tell you to do this. We're going to be creative. So, and then I'm going to show you how to apply this to a musical setting. Most people, my problem is they read the book and then they go, great, okay, I read the book, and maybe some of that stuff will filter over, but if we start with the book and just slow down, take a couple of ideas and work with the ideas, be creative with the ideas, so the one idea becomes 10 ideas or more, but the sticking is always the same, but you're just changing sound, you're changing dynamics, you're changing the accents, you got all these different things happening, right? And then we go, okay, now how does this work in a musical setting? Let's use this so that there's only one thought, and that one thought is you're always playing music. Not, here I'm practicing, here I'm playing. Well, how do you connect the dots?
That's the beauty, right?
How do you bridge it?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the things that either teachers and students really, really struggle with.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
well, why am I practicing this? Let me show you why you're practicing slow.
Right.
Let me show you, because the space in between the notes helps you grid where your time sensibility is. It shows you all your flaws. When you explain things like that to them, they go, oh, that's why I'm doing it slow.
Yeah.
This is so boring. I said, no, it's meditative. And it's almost like Zen-like. And when you get inside how fantastic it is, it's slow, it's easier to play, and you have more control over your individual limbs and all the subtleties that make musicians great. You can put all that stuff at a quicker level. Rather than when you're playing fast, adrenaline can cover a lot of stuff that maybe you're not really aware of. You might have some problems or bad habits you're not even aware of because you're just playing fast. You slow things down, you really focus on the core of what the idea is.
Yeah.
So,
Speaking of Humber students, in the last 20 years at least, Humber grads have taken a lot of flack upon graduating into the freelance scene. When they start to play out in clubs and stuff. And
they have?
yeah. The problem seems to involve how long it takes our young adults to actually mature into men and women in modern society. What methods do you use to teach them non-competitiveness, and why? How do you iron out the competitiveness, insecurity, and young ego in them? Now, you know that when the rest of the city talks about Humber grads, that they're talking about this a little bit of a, this is going back a long time, this sort of stigma of attitude. They seem to have a little bit of attitude that's,
this is news to me because I kind of don't see it.
Okay.
To be honest, I don't see it.
You don't see how competitive guys are when they're 19 and trying to outdo
I
each
see
other?
that,
Because that's what I'm talking about.
But I explain to them, I think I start from the very first class, and I give them the harsh dose of reality. I say, guys, you're here for 4 years.
Yeah.
You can spend your time wisely, or you can be an idiot, you can party and, spend all this money. So you're going to waste money, you're going to waste time. Don't do either.
Right.
Focus, get out of here, because when you leave school, first of all, me and every other teacher here, we're your competition.
Yeah.
I mean, not really, because we're playing different gigs, but by the same chance, we want to play, and we don't want to give you space to take our gigs because we like playing too much.
It's funny how the word competition is, it's the closest we can come. It's the closest word we've got to describing what it's like. Because the older you get, you're not really competing. It's just...
Well, I mean, the older you get, we're talking about Gary and Al, and the camaraderie amongst drummers, I think, is universal.
Yeah.
There's guys who want to be competitive, but I think most players who are professionals,
yeah,
they have a mutual respect,
yeah,
a healthy mutual respect for each other.
Yeah.
And it's just like the hang. It's all like great to see everybody. It's like, drummer hang, all right.
Yeah.
Because that's why else do drummer festivals work?
Right.
Where other instruments don't.
Yeah.
There's not bass festivals and organ festivals. Maybe there's organ festivals, but
flute festivals.
But yeah,
flute
but drum festivals are the one that everybody would go, not just drummers.
Yeah.
So there's a unique experience with that. But I tell my students the same thing. I said, look, we want to foster an environment of learning and learning from each other.
How do they handle that?
I think good.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell because half the time they don't say anything. So I just speak and they go,
right,
okay, I hope you got it.
Hope it's stuck.
Hope it sticks.
But do you agree that actually, like, they're so young?
There's healthy competition.
Right.
Where it's like, oh, you can do that. I want to do that too.
Yeah.
So they go and they work. So I say, oh man, that guy sounds really great at that. I want to do that.
Yeah.
And so there's always that. You're always going to push yourself to be great. I think when they stress about it and they put too much emphasis on what other people think about what it is they do, therein lies the problem. And that gets to the root of the problem, which again is ego, as you mentioned.
Right.
The ego is the dastardly thing. You go into martial arts, you go into yoga, and man, that ego is harsh. It's deadly. It's hard to get rid of. It's hard to control.
Yeah.
There are ways that I think ego or being confident helped me, but I watched Bruce Lee and I got a lot of confidence watching Bruce Lee and how he approached things, and watching Buddy Rich, they were both kind of cocky.
Right.
But for me, that I kind of liked that, so I was very cocky when I was in high school.
It suits a young man. It suits a young man.
I think so, but I think it can help you to a degree.
Yeah.
But then when it becomes egotistical and you start saying stupid things like I'm the best in the world
and believing it,
then you're done. To undo that is very difficult.
Because you might not understand why you're actually believing that. You might not understand the whole framework behind.
Well, it's insecurity.
Yeah.
It's insecurity compounded with frustration.
Totally.
And you can see it all the time. I see my students they're so worried about what I think, and it's like, look, man, if you're thinking about what I'm thinking about you, you're not thinking about music.
Yeah.
Get back to thinking about music. Okay, you're in a room.
Because you're just a messenger for so much, right? You're just a medium. Yeah.
Me personally.
Yeah.
I mean, I try and tell them things that I've learned through experience, because, I say this is a safe environment. This is where you can screw up.
Right.
Your reputation doesn't rely on it. Of course, maybe in the school there's a hierarchy and a little dynamic that I'm unaware of, that I don't see.
Yeah.
That if you play bad in front of 20 other drummers in the room, your spirit's gonna be crushed. Like,
Right.
oh, I can't believe I did that. But you know what? They're all doing it. They're all get up, and the nerves manifest itself in numerous ways, where they rush, or they drag, or they freak out, or they miss an ending, or they play a dumb fill, or they play too busy, or they just, they go, after they're finished, what just happened?
Yeah.
My hands are shaking. Are you okay? No. So I've seen it all. But on the other side of it, I talked to guys, Adrian Bent, who was a student at Humber, went to play on SNL with Drake. I texted him. I said, hey, man, don't screw up on national TV in front of 2 million people.
Yeah.
And he goes, haha, LOL. This is easier than your master class. Playing in your master class was way, way harder than this.
Wow.
And I'm like, text, I have done my job. I try to explain to them that being nervous is natural. I've got guys who, one student went and auditioned for Canada's Wonderland last year, and I said, how'd the audition go? He said, man, it was so easy. Compared to your master class, I wasn't nervous at all. I went in, I was like, wow, it was so easy. And I talked to my drummer, Pierre, and my ensemble. He's like, are you nervous for the gig tonight? He's like, I don't get nervous anymore. Your master class cured me of that.
That's
So,
fantastic.
because you're in a room with 20 other people who know what you're doing, and they're all hypersensitive and listening to every detail, it's heavy, man, to sit up there and play in front of those people by yourself. And then as they say, I'm the dragon lord behind them, going, no. Or worse, going, oh, God, you're killing me. I'm very frank, and I always tell them, I try to preface it by saying, it's not personal. What I'm about to say to you is not personal, but man, that ain't gonna cut it.
Hang on.
Like,
Not personal. Go ahead.
yeah. So I say, okay, this is not personal. It's not. It's not that I don't like you or that you're a bad person, but from my experience, your groove is weak and your time needs work. You think you really need to look at that, and your reading, is bad, or you're not hearing the proper feel for the song. Like you're so far on top of the beat. And yet the bass, I ultimately I try to get them to listen.
Right.
It's just like my number one goal. I mean, the mantra is musician first, drummer second. If you think like that, you're probably going to play the right thing for the music.
Youth talks, age teaches. An old
Yeah.
Maori proverb. Okay, here we go. What technology should we really do away with when learning music?
What technologies?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Want to skip that question?
No. Let me think. What technologies? I don't know. I mean, because I love the metronome.
So many apps.
Yeah, there's so many apps.
Yeah.
All the metronome apps and
Tuning
play
apps and
alongs,
stuff.
Tuning apps. Yeah, I mean, as long as, one thing, and I'm a little bit on the fence, and I know people are going to maybe disagree with this, but the electronic drum thing.
Yeah.
I'm an acoustic player, and I love acoustic drums. I think there's way more nuances and subtleties of playing a real cymbal as opposed to an electronic cymbal.
Oh yeah.
And
Good jazz drummer could get like 20 different sounds out of one ride.
Yeah,
right?
or one snare drum. You go to the edge, you from rolling in, and I mean they're trying to perfect that, but
Yeah.
it's not the same thing. The touch, you can play. It's great for parents. There's no noise. They get to play on rubber pads, so it gives you a false sense of your technique.
Right.
And then you go onto a real drum kit, and the heads are tuned low, and you're like, wow, I can't play anything I can play on my home drum kit. Yeah, because you're playing on rubber.
It's an interesting dynamic,
It's doing
right?
half the work for you.
Yeah.
And it gives you the dynamics thing. Maybe it's better now because I mean, guys like them.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing Omar Hakim on the Grammys or something with Madonna, and he was like, you could see him playing, and it looked like he was into it. And I'm listening. The drum sounds about this big.
I know.
It's
Yeah.
like, wow, it looks like Omar's putting out a lot of energy, but I ain't hearing it.
Yeah.
And live, I certainly don't feel it the same way. Acoustic kits push air.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they push air, and there's a physicality to that air being pushed,
Yeah.
and that you don't get with electronics. It's you hit it and the sound just appears
And do you
without that movement of air.
Yeah. Totally.
The pressure.
Yeah.
And those kind of things that the scientific things that go on behind that.
Yeah, because that's what our ears
So-
pick up. They
Yeah.
scan for that, and they're built for that. And
Yeah, I don't want to say not to do it. I understand from a parent's perspective absolutely
Yeah.
why you'd want to have,
Yeah.
especially if you're in an apartment building. What other choice do you have? I
a lot
mean, I
of,
had
lot
to
of
have
condos being built.
Billy Gladstone pads over
Yeah.
all my drums, taped to my bass drum, and T-shirts on my cymbals.
Right.
Right. So I mean, I did practice on rubber as well, but I was always able to maybe take it off and just a little bit, play the real drum kit here and there.
So it leads us to the next question. Where's technology taking us and our music, and where should we be pointing to instead? Why are we in such a lockstep with music and our culture? So yeah, like we're kind of, technology is always playing catch up, and
Well-
but it seems like we're kind of, not with everybody, but we're pretty, this is the situation we're in right now.
It depends on who you talk to.
Right.
There are guys out there like Bob Leftitz, I think that's how you pronounce his name. His column is always very frank about the ups and downs of the music business, but he still always seems to be able to have a positive slant on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are people who are crying the blues because it's drastically different. When I was coming up, I would work 6 nights a week in one club, go to another club, work 6 nights a week.
That's what Al Cross was saying.
So I'd play all the time.
Yeah.
And then I remember times doing this club PWDs. I'd do 7 nights there, and if I was lucky, I'd play at Myers Deli, the after hours bar, 5 nights as well. It was hellish going to school at the same time, but I'd do 7 nights in a club from 9 to 1, and run across the street, have my second set of drums there, play from 1:10 till 3:30, and then get up and do school, and then go down and play. But
Too young to have a heart attack.
yeah, exactly. You'd be hanging out, wings and chicken and pizza.
Smoky bars,
Just
hyperventilating.
smoky
Remember
bars.
that?
I do, unfortunately. That was the worst. That was one thing that was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But to go back, I think I'm not sure it was technology, but I think it's sort of music being devalued as an art form.
Yeah.
With many of these TV shows where people, like these American Idol things, these kind of shows, they just get people, and, okay, you're American Idol, and then it's like, you win, you're the winner, you're a star, and then, okay, show's over, boom, you've got to move out of the apartment, thank you,
Yeah.
next, let's start all over again. That guy's going, but what just happened?
What would it take for those shows to disappear, do you think? I mean, it's pretty unlikely that that's going to happen.
I don't know. Shows like Breaking Bad and all
Yeah.
these great shows that are out there, the writing has become super strong on television, so we're seeing a return to content and story. It's great actors and characters.
Yeah.
And you're seeing a lot of movie actors going to television,
Right.
and movies are they're in a downward spiral right now. 'Cause
Yeah.
they don't seem to have the material, but the TVs, over the long periods of time, they can tell longer stories. But technology, I don't know. You can't change. It's here to stay. You kind of have to adapt and learn to survive. And I see it. I mean, if anything, I think you have to be more willing to promote yourself like crazy with YouTube and all these things with their YouTube channels and stuff like that. I see my younger students and I'm thinking, holy cow, man, do I need to do that?
Right.
Because for me, it was always word of mouth, reputation.
But there's still
So you got
that.
to
It's
get-
still
there's
present.
still that, but then you got on there and you do your video at home. Here's me tuning and like,
Yeah.
I'm almost at 100,000 hits.
You're right.
Like, wow, that's great. But how do you turn it into money?
Well, there's that, yeah. But it's
You know,
still,
'cause you
word
still
of mouth
wanna-
is still,
You want to still make money because you want to be
Yeah.
doing it as a living and
Yeah.
survive, right? I
Yeah.
call it the survival business. I've always called it that as opposed to the music business.
oh, really? Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, I'm going to take this gig. Does it suck? Yeah, I'm going to take it anyway just because I'm going to play drums and it beats working at McDonald's for minimum wage.
Yeah.
And make more bread and have fun and meet older musicians.
Yeah.
That's what worked for me.
Plus, when you make mistakes, you actually get better. It just makes you better, right? And
Oh,
when
yeah.
you're in,
Oh, yeah.
when you're in tough situations, you only ever learn, right?
Pain is an incredible teacher.
Pain is just weakness leaving the body.
Love that. I'm going to use that. I love it.
Okay, speaking of mistakes, why are students so terrified of mistakes, and where does this come from, and how do you get them out of it?
Again, it's ego.
Okay.
Okay, I made a mistake. Everybody in the room thinks I stink. They think I suck, and then you get really down on yourself, and you say, oh my God, everybody saw that. Oh, this is horrible. How am I going to survive? Now they're all, I know what they're thinking. So it's ego and self-inflicted, right? Same thing happens when I give my students something really difficult to practice. And I say, okay, how many times were you practicing this really simple thing slowly?
Yeah.
And then when someone's looking in the window, hey, what are you doing? You start going,
Yeah.
you start flexing your muscles. Okay, he's gone. Okay. Ding.
Now, a spiritual person would say
Ding.
every time a mistake happens, well, it's actually something inside you is dying. There's death and there's rebirth. It's an opportunity to,
absolutely, yeah.
And that's what you're
That's
actually
life.
experiencing. And
That's
yeah,
life. You look at trees.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
people
a cycle.
are afraid of death.
They're afraid of death.
They're afraid of death, but I see the trees and I go, but yeah, look, those leaves are dying. Look at the beauty and the color and the richness.
Yeah.
It's the best. Right before they die, or as they're dying, they look the best.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a
that they do
cycle.
out of the whole. Absolutely,
Yeah.
rebirth, regeneration. So,
Yeah.
you know, I believe in reincarnation and
Yeah.
things like that. I believe the body's a vessel. You know, we're here to we get chosen to make
Limited
rhythm.
time.
Limited time.
Yeah.
I don't even think of it as limited. I don't even think about it at all. Really, just
Because you're a wise old man. That's
no,
why.
I'm old. But
Okay. Your dad, speaking of wise old man, I had the pleasure
he's
of-
really old.
Your dad says your drumming changed the instant you sang into a microphone.
Oh, okay. Well, that was a we'll call it a defining moment because this story is great because I tell my students the same thing. I mean, you know, talking about the secure environment and making mistakes and learning in
Yeah.
the room, I try to give them the benefit of my mistakes so that they don't have to make them. That's an Anthony Robbins
Right.
motivational thing.
True teacher.
Yeah, get someone else's mistakes, look at that, and then don't make their mistakes.
Well, I just want to jump in for a quick second and talk about mistakes because I really believe in this stuff a lot, and it's such a great subject, but we don't talk about it a lot. There's a stigma surrounding mistakes that they are 100% bad, and you get out of it on the other side, but they're really going to take a chunk. Go
What
ahead.
people have to realize about mistakes is that they're the best stories you will have 20 years from now.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, all I remember are my screw-ups and how funny they are now. Said, oh, you did that? Check, I can top that. This is way worse. I did this on a gig and this happened and it was a disaster. And you're thinking, oh my God. And it's like, yeah, but at the time, I don't know. I don't remember if I just laughed it off or if I was mortified or not. I mean, it's part of the growing process. But yeah,
Adventures
mistakes,
suck when you're having them.
yeah, they suck, and then you move on. But now, I don't remember all the perfect gigs. I don't even talk about flawlessly played gigs. I mean, there's some musically that stand out as being really great nights. But most of the time, it's just you want to tell funny stories
Yeah.
about funny things that happened on the gig because everybody likes to laugh. So they become good fodder for comedy stories, right? So now I have to backtrack to where do we start again?
Just mistakes in your dad. We were talking about
Oh,
your
mistakes,
dad.
yes. So my dad.
Singing into a microphone.
I was 17, and as I say, I was into Buddy Rich, and I was like pretty busy. And my dad had hired me for some gigs, and after the first couple of nights, my dad's thinking, I'm going to have to fire my son. What kind of a home dynamic is this going to create for me, firing my own son? Who knows if I would have survived that or if I would have quit. Who knows? But he didn't do that. He says, I got to get him to settle down. I don't know what to do. And then he said, can you sing a song, or sing some songs? And because I had listened to a lot of Gino Vanelli tracks, I was always singing along to the melody. So I was singing and drumming. So that came very naturally to me, right? So
Yeah.
I said, yeah, sure. And then as it went on, as soon as I started to sing and I opened my mouth and I was playing, it was like, okay, I got to sing this, but now I'm relegated to playing the most simple groove beat that I can, and I can't play any fills if the more I'm singing. So it was really an education, like, wow, the second I start talking, because I don't think I'd practice with counting out loud or anything like that, things that people do now. It just was like, ugh.
It's another
How do I
limb.
s-
You have to coordinate your voice, right?
Five-way coordination.
Five-way.
Five-way coordination.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, I was singing in every song.
Yeah.
It didn't dawn on me that that's what my dad was doing, but
He was a singer and already. He knew what he was
he
doing.
was a singer already. Yeah, he knew what he was doing, but I didn't. I just was like happy to. Yeah, okay, Dad, sure, I'll sing in this. Can you sing in this one too? Okay. How about this one? I'm like, okay, I'll learn these backgrounds. Keep going, and you learn all this stuff, and before you know it, you're singing every tune and realizing that you're playing way simpler. But after a while, it became the challenge of, okay, I still want to be able to play, and then so I got into the concept of five-way coordination, and now I've gotten to the point where I've done it so long where I could actually back phrase on my own groove.
Nice.
With singing, I can back phrase against without the time movement.
Yeah. So
which-
it's another independence.
It's another independence.
area
So
where
I'm
you've
very
expanded.
happy
Yeah.
that by fluke he chose to do that, and it became another challenge. Because I'm like one of those guys who digs a challenge.
Yeah.
Oh, the harder I want to do it. I want to be
makes
able
you
to
better.
do it. Yeah.
Makes you better, right? And you could probably stomach mistakes, in all kinds of situations.
Oh, well,
Just
yeah.
just all part
I
of
mean,
it,
it's
right?
a long time ago, so I don't remember.
Yeah. It probably changed your monitor mix, approach to your monitors and what you
Yeah,
need in your
if we
wedges
had
and stuff.
monitors.
Yeah. Oh my God. You
we
you
have
just had
monitors?
smoke in those bars, just smoky bars.
Smoke, yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Roberto Acapinti bought you a Lamberg drum. Did I say that right?
Lambeg, yeah.
Lambeg.
Lambeg.
Same kind of drum your grandfather played in Orange
The Orange
Marches.
Parades, the
Yeah,
Orange Parades, yes.
Belfast.
Yes.
Why is it, in your opinion, that musicians are able to form such incredibly strong friendships with other musicians? Well, Roberto's a rhythm section guy, so that's pretty obvious.
Yeah,
but
Roberto Acapinti is a fantastic bass player, both electric and acoustic, and a great composer, a great producer, funny guy, super intelligent, and you can edit all that out of the video
I will.
so that he doesn't see it. And
I'll include
he's-
that in the video
yeah,
that he gets.
Yeah,
but
of course.
No
yeah.
one else will see that
But
part.
he's been a friend of mine, God, for over 25 years, I think. And I think I have really close friendships with a lot of my bass player friends, because for me that is the most important connection
Yeah.
in the rhythm section, me and the bass player. And you know, I play with, this city has so many fantastic bass players. And
But what is it beyond that? You know, it's got to go deeper than
well,
that.
the two of us are kind of like our own little island.
Yeah.
You know, you got the rhythm section as one whole, but then there's the you know, if it's piano and keyboards, well, they get into the harmony and the register the instruments and comping and stuff. But the bass and the drums, if they're not locked musically and groove-wise, it doesn't matter what anybody else plays. It's
Right.
just never going to be that good as it could be, you know?
No, I
So-
appreciate that, and for sure. Of course,
But,
you're
I-
right. But
yeah.
I'm just wondering, that outside of the music, the obvious musical connection, like personally, because you're musicians, would you get along? It's kind of a leading question, or you know, I'm trying to.
You know, I think, I don't know. I've never thought about that. It's just
Yeah.
they're good guys.
Right.
They're good guys, and bass players are usually pretty solid characters.
Yeah.
You know, you think about their job. For me, they have the hardest job in any band.
Okay.
They got one foot in the harmony. They control the root movements. You think you're playing this chord, but if I play this root, it's a different chord.
Yeah.
You know, you can do all you want, but boom, and there, now it's this. They control the harmonic bottom end. And then the other side, they connect with the drums to create the rhythm. So they've got one world in the harmonic world, one foot in the harmonic world, and one foot in the rhythmic world. And so they have to be solid on two counts to make everything happen.
So this sort of the secret MD in a way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They make great MDs.
Yeah.
You know?
What principles make you tick as a musician now in his 50s? What principles of mastery keep you grounded and connected to values that stem from the heart? Now, I'm asking you this because, you know, we were just talking about some true gentlemen, guys who are getting older now, Al Cross, Gary Craig, Paul DeLong, you know, guys who are,
Ancient.
they're so old. I mean, their teeth were falling out yesterday, and we had wielding them around in wheelchairs. And they get on the drums, and it's like they're 20 years old again, you know.
Well,
They're real like
That's-
gentlemen, these guys.
yeah. I think that's just age, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
They know what's what, though, on such a deep level about so much.
Well, I've seen it. I remember seeing Candido Camero, the Cuban percussion player, at 82 play some congas. And technically, he wasn't doing what like Giovanni Hidalgo could do. It
Yeah.
wasn't at the blazing speed. But what he played was so freaking heavy. Like, he laid down this pocket, and I was just like going, jeez, listen to that. I'm like, oh my God, that's heavy.
Yeah.
That's so heavy. He's not doing anything, but it's so heavy.
Yeah.
Same with Changuito. He played timbales, and I've been very fortunate to play with him.
Yeah.
And you know, and he played just one little timbale thing. I'd be like, oh, God, that was good. It hurt, but it was good. Yes, a quarter note.
Yeah.
How do you make a quarter note great? Roy Haynes, sitting behind him at Modern Drum Fest with Bill Stewart and Bill Bruford. Three
Yeah.
of us like little puppy dogs watching Roy Haynes. And Roy's swinging, and I'm thinking, my God, his ride cymbal, it's encompassing everything. It's like everybody in the band could jump on that. It's like the beats are so huge.
Yeah.
You know, Steve Gadd stand right in front of me playing, or sitting in front of me
Yeah.
playing, and I'm standing there, and me and Cord Sheard were standing there going, oh God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh. And he's like, oh, you feel that? I'm like, oh man. Oh God. It's like he's punching me in the gut. There's a physical reaction to the groove.
Yeah.
And what he's playing. And I looked at my students who were there, like, are you getting this? And they're like, oh yeah, man, it's awesome.
Right on.
But I knew that they weren't hearing what I was hearing.
Yeah.
So there's just training yourself to learn at deeper levels. The older you get, and the older you get, you just hear things on a far more sophisticated level, and you hear things that other people don't. And because I remember when I didn't hear it. I remember when I didn't hear the groove. I saw Bernard Purdie, and I saw Earth, Wind and Fire, and I think, man, these guys don't have any chops. They're not like Buddy Rich, but why do I like this so much?
Yeah.
Why am I? Oh, I can't stop listening to it, but it doesn't make sense because I want to see fast, blazing speed, but something is here, and it makes you think, well, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And I can remember exactly the moment I had that awakening, that epiphany. I was in Canada's Wonderland, 1982, in the stage manager's office. Bought this new record, Mecca for Moderns by the Manhattan Transfer. Put on the first tune, because I'd been working on all the GAD shit and trying to cop it, and I'd play it and listen to it back and go, it doesn't sound the same.
Yeah.
But I know I'm playing exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound the same. And I put on this first tune, On the Boulevard, and I was like, it just hit me. Him and Abe Laboriel were just laying, and it was just like, it was actually terrifying.
Yeah.
The realization was terrifying because I've been playing drums for about 7 years, and I was like, oh my God, the feel. I'm working on the time, but the feel.
Yeah.
And it was like all this fear, kind of was excitement, but mostly fear.
Right.
That terrified the shit out of me, and I was like, I don't have that.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I don't know how to do it.
You didn't feel like one day you were going to get it, your own version of it?
I wasn't even focusing on it.
Right.
It was like people talked about feel and time, groove, and these, in the 70s, people talked about it as these mythical, esoteric terms. Like,
Yeah.
well, what about feel? And they tell us, you've got to ask.
Yeah, pocket and groove.
If you don't know, man, I can't tell
Yeah.
you. That's not helping me.
Right.
I don't know what to do. You're not helping me at all.
So would you see it like, I mean, the way I look at it, it's not about me here, but just that the older you get, when you're talking about 50s, 60s, 70s, that these old guys are really, they're not just efficient in how they play and how they hit a drum, and they're efficient because their intention is so pure now.
I think that, but also repetition. Repetition. The conga player, Candido, he'd probably been playing that same lick, that same beat for 70 years.
Right.
And if you've been doing something for 70 years, it's going to have an incredible depth and weight and power to it that all those years of replaying it over and over and over again, relearning it, getting better and getting stronger, understanding it more, understanding it in a deeper level, just makes it way heavier than someone who's could play the same thing who's been playing 5 years.
That probably ties into martial arts and just repetition.
And yoga. Most recently with yoga, I learned it because in the first month you learn a whole bunch of the moves. You're like, okay, I got this down.
Yeah.
And then 5 years later, you're going, I'm refining what I learned in that first month still. Funny story, Donnie Vickery, who teaches the Humber, beautiful cat. And I said, Donnie, you're getting up there, what do you practice? You still practice? He's like, oh yeah. What do you practice? And I said, I'm still working on my ride cymbal, trying to get it out.
Don Vickery, playing the ride cymbal. Sorry, got cut off there.
It's okay. So I said, Donnie, you've been playing that for probably 60 years. Aren't you happy with it? And he's like, nah, I still need to work on it just a little bit, just to, and I was like, that's heavy.
Yeah.
But that ties into the martial arts because the whole thing, one of Bruce Lee's famous expressions was about about just growing and always searching and striving for perfection, but never attaining it.
Right.
It's all about the journey. Because if you attain it, then where do you go from there?
Yeah.
Back down. You start to undo. Right? But the whole thing was if you're like water can be powerful. It can put it in a cup. It fits the teacup. It fits the teapot. It's shapeless. It can take any form, and it can be soft, like raindrops. It can be powerful, Niagara Falls. So it encompasses so many different things. But if you just let it stay there in a cup, and you let that cup stay there, it'll probably evaporate, but the water will become stale and stagnant. And to him, that was death. Right. If you stop growing, you become stale, like stale water. You die, be it spiritually or emotionally or whatever. But you don't grow. You always had to grow, and water being a life source, it was a nice combination. So
They're really big on bamboo in the Eastern religions too, because it keeps on growing. It's very
Yeah.
strong. It's hollow,
yeah,
so you're not really carrying anything inside.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the further away we get from nature in our culture, I think we kind of get into more trouble. And the mind really gets a lot stronger, and the ego as well, you know. And
Yeah.
and I guess that ties into music just with how often, you know, when we get into trouble with music, especially when we're growing, it's a lot of it has to do with our attitudes and just, you know, how we're
Oh,
not.
yeah, again, frustration and insecurities.
Yeah, and we're not
Why?
comfortable in the moment, but playing music is it's really about the moment, you know. Do you feel like you're not thinking about stuff, but you're just really in a zen state?
Always,
Yeah.
always. I'm lucky now. I play mostly fun music with great musicians, pretty much all the time, and which is funny because that's what I wanted to do when I was 13. I
Right.
just want to play great music. Simple. I want to play great music with great musicians. For the most part, I do. But yeah, I talk about. It's funny because I was a comic book nerd growing up.
Yeah.
So my reference to that was always the cosmic awareness from Captain Marvel.
Right.
And it was like this. I remember reading that when I was like 18, and he's, you have this cosmic awareness. You become one with the universe. I was like,
Yeah.
that's cool. If I could do that on drums, that'd be heavy. So Bruce Lee's kind of like that, and I try to think, and I try and sit there and just play, and and not think, but just play, respond, which comes down to ultimately back to listening. I listen and react rather than think about it and try to do something, or go into the analytical mind or the practice mind to do it. Obviously, you've got to go through those steps to get to that point,
Yeah.
that final stage. But I always love that concept of the cosmic awareness, where I'm just the overlord of my body,
Yeah.
and I said, "Go play." It just happens. I don't think of anything. Everything happens really fast but calm.
So the mind is like a gatekeeper for,
Yeah.
for transitioning all the arithmetic that you have to learn into your body. You know, first it's a processor
Yeah.
to process all the math and then send that into your body through repetition, and then that's where you play from.
But it's also the body's an amazing multitasker.
Right.
If you look at this, you don't think about breathing when you're asleep,
Yeah.
or we die.
Yeah.
You don't have to, because your body takes care of it. So after a while, your pores are opening and closing, the hair's growing, your fingernails are growing, your taste buds are working. Your body probably does thousands of things on a daily basis that you don't actually think about.
Yeah, all at
So all
120 beats a minute too. Default to-
But all you're asking to do is to take on 4 more tasks, 4 more limbs, 5 if you sing.
Right.
And so
6 if you're reading.
and if you're reading, yeah. But what I try and get my students to do for that is, I'll say, I'll give them a really hard thing and they can't do it. You know what I do is I make it harder.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, God, that's 10 times harder. And all of a sudden they go to do that and they realize they're doing what they just thought was hard.
Totally.
Without thinking about it. I said,
Totally.
look what happened. Your body took over and you're doing it. And you're like, oh, wait a second, you tricked me.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I tricked your mind, and your mind tricked your body.
Yeah.
And you get into this whole thing. Why couldn't I do that before? Because you were thinking about it too
Yeah,
much.
exactly.
Which is kind of funny, right? You think about things too much, and it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen naturally.
Is technology going to take us away from that paradigm?
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope not. I mean, because the key thing is communication, right?
Right.
And this is distorting communication. I
Yeah.
drive people in my cars, and I go to trying to have a conversation, and 3 people have got their phones on Facebook, and it's like,
Guys are on the gig doing that
Wow.
now, in between songs, texting and checking the phone. It's
some of them might have metronomes, so you might be checking tempos. to be, because I made that mistake.
I've seen you do that. Yeah.
Yeah, because you got the tempo and you got your app. It's okay, great. Here's the next thing.
Yeah.
But
Technology is, I've heard this, it's an argument I believe in personally, that it's neutral, and that it's just how we use it that matters.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we're so,
human beings are ill-equipped
Yeah.
for the technological advances that have happened in the last 100 years.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Mhm.
We're emotional creatures, and you look at Facebook, you say one thing, before you know it, someone's like, "You asshole! What
Yeah.
the heck?" You're like, "What happened, man?"
Yeah.
They're having a rational discussion and input and discussing. Now it's just a fight
yeah.
for who's right. It's like, well, because we're communicating in this medium that is faceless.
Yeah.
You can hide behind it, and even if you say something funny, people get pissed off. You're like, it's a joke.
But we say things funny because we're a little insecure. We know we're in public. And
Well,
but
no,
we're
we say
so
things to make people laugh, to
Yeah.
bring levity to the situation, or just for humor, whatever.
we're also, but what you're saying basically is we are so territorial and we are so status obsessed, you know,
Yeah, that's
and
for sure.
and just we always know who's doing better or worse than who's got more money. Like,
Facebook is the ultimate of that. You think,
Yeah.
man, this guy's got all these gigs this week. I got shit.
yeah,
Man, oh man. Well, and then you start feeling lousy, and you start hating Facebook, and then you
Yeah.
get pissed off, and you have a rotten day
Right.
because someone else is having a good week.
Meanwhile, the Facebook that you and I know is completely different from other people's because we have so much music and so much professional,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so much professionality wrapped up in just that medium because we kind of have to in this day and age, you know.
It's another medium to get work.
Yeah,
Meeting people and staying in contact with friends, and it's just another medium. It's the medium. People use that more than email now.
for sure.
So I have to check Facebook in case someone hires me for a gig.
But that's an example of, there's the technology. You do use it how you see fit,
Yeah.
and
I stopped it for 6 months.
Did you?
I thought I was getting addicted to it.
Yeah.
I saw the trend of being addicted to it.
Yeah.
So I stopped it for 6 months.
Right.
And then people thought I unfriended them, and they were all pissed off at me. I was like, no, I didn't unfriend you. Yeah, well, I can't access your page.
Right.
Yeah, I stopped. I got off for 6 months. Oh.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, geez, I got to watch now. If I want to quit Facebook, people are going to get mad at me. Right?
Right.
So, which was something I had not taken into consideration.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway.
Hi, how are you? Good. Yeah.
But yeah, you use the tools. You got to stay kind of current.
It's a great tool.
It's a great tool. I mean,
yeah.
people put on things you never see. Oh, that's really funny, or that's really great music, or that's a powerful message.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have I've seen it. So there's good and bad.
There's good and bad for
There's
sure.
good and bad. It's unfiltered. It's out of control, but
Yeah,
then you just kind of have to try and maintain and control yourself.
for sure.
With you're used to it.
Because how would we react if it was just so homogenous and and there wasn't any diversity represented in people's views and personally when they post a lot of political stuff, then man, I try not to avoid political stuff, and but we'd probably be bemoaning the fact that there's no diversity on Facebook. If you see everything that you want,
There's always something to complain about.
that's a musician, right? How do you get a musician to complain?
Get him a gig.
There you go. Switching gears just for a sec here. Your dad told me something great. He said, "Is it true that the only artist your sister and you and your
Right.
parents can listen to is Sting?"
It was actually the Police.
Oh yeah.
It was the Police. In our house, my dad was a jazz guy, and I was a jazz or funk guy, and so our music was leaned similar things. My mom would be more like the crooners, Tom Jones, Engelbert Humperdinck.
Right.
Really not that involved in music. Really didn't care for music. It
Yep.
didn't matter if there was music or not. Or
I've
me
heard
and
of
my
people
dad.
like that. Yeah.
I know they're rare, but my mom clapped on 1 and 3. I kept trying to get her to feel 2 and 4. She never could. She always had to go. Is that right? I'm like, yeah, Mom, how can you not feel that?
I think there's rehab for this now. Or there's, it
And then
can be
my
cured.
Sister, and my sister, when she was young, she was in the Motley Crue and Ozzy Osbourne, which I just detested.
Yeah.
I'd come home. I was a terrible brother. I'd come home and she'd be blasting us up. I'd come home. I'd just lift the needle off, take it off, say, "Nope, my turn.
So
Take this, beat it."
mid '80s,
Early '80s.
early
yeah.
'80s. Yeah.
So, but the Police, I think the Police crossed boundaries for almost everybody because there were hooky tunes. The musicianship was high. Musicians dug them.
Yeah.
The grooves were really interesting. The harmony was sophisticated, coming from Sting's jazz background, and Andy Summers being a former jazz guitar player with all his cool voicings, and of course Stuart Copeland with all his amazing syncopated beats, and then the lyrics and were kind of a little bit deeper than some of the pop tunes that were out in the day. And of course, Sting was an incredibly good-looking man, so all the women went crazy for him.
Yeah.
So they
Even though he got a
covered-
nose job in the early '80s.
Yeah, did he?
Yeah.
Did he? I didn't know.
Said it was sinuses.
I didn't know that.
But, oh yeah, for
I didn't
sure.
know that.
Yeah, they were on a mission. The blonde hair.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
one of my favorite bands. But they're also one thing.
And those records stand the test of time.
Damn right.
They're over 30 years old, but
Yeah.
you listen to it, you go, I love this song.
Yeah.
I love this groove. I love the production. I love everything about it.
They're killer.
Yeah.
They also took the world over by storm, and you could say arguably, well, geez, they're all on cocaine. They're all on performance-enhancing drugs. A lot of bands were.
So is Weather Report.
So is Weather Report. So were a lot of bands, and we don't.
Everybody in the 70s.
Everyone in the 70s and 80s.
God, I just watched the history of the Eagles. Man.
It's the same story again and again.
Yeah, because it was rampant. It was rampant, and everybody had tons of money, and it was really prevalent in the studio scene.
Yeah.
And you look at how's Keith Richards even alive?
Right. Yeah. Or Steve Gadd.
Steve Gadd. It was divine intervention.
Yeah.
Right. Will Lee and Chris Parker. They pulled him aside, and you're gonna die.
Yeah.
If you keep maintaining this.
Yeah. You hear stuff, man. I heard like the guy woke up in a dumpster one time. Stories like that. It's just like.
But then
wow.
it goes back. Charlie Parker.
Yeah.
All the junkies, all the guys. Alvin was a junkie. Philly Joe was a junkie. All those guys, because I don't know if blow was the same thing. If it was sort of like you get to the creative source.
Right.
Heroin was part of it was about you get to the creative source and you really get to experience things, see things, the world differently. I think that was part of the draw there.
Yeah.
And the jazz musicians looking for that extra thing.
Yeah.
We're drawn into the heroin thing.
Part of the culture too.
Part of the it was like normal.
Yeah.
Opium in the early 1900s was like a legal drug. You just go to an opium den.
Yeah.
Could you imagine an opium den being around now?
Man, we were talking about Ginger Baker earlier and just how, it's so easy to sit here and to say all these things about people we don't know, and it's just these stories are so well known. It's almost a cliche and everything.
Yeah, you don't know the situation. I understand, like that life must be insane.
Yeah.
Right. We have unless you're super famous. Look at Michael Jackson or Elvis. Yeah. Their lives must have been insane.
Yeah, for sure.
How can you deal with that? Everybody on the earth tells you you're a god.
Yeah.
It's hard to not believe it.
It's just not
and
normal.
And then you look for bigger highs because you're financially independent. You can I want to buy a mountain. I can do that. Shit. Okay. Okay, I want to buy an island.
Yeah.
You can do that. Okay, shit. You can have anything.
I want to go to
you
space.
Yeah, I want to go to space. You can do pretty much anything that is available in that time frame. You can do it because you have that much money.
There's a great moment in a Pete Townsend book where he's having a crisis and he goes, it's the end of a paragraph and he goes, so I bought a house in the south of France.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'd buy a mochaccino, you know.
So, just for fun because you can.
Yeah.
So then you look for bigger boosts because that doesn't really satisfy you.
Yeah.
Right? It's
therapists must have been making a lot of money in the 80s.
Oh my God, probably. They're making money probably still from those cats. Yeah. But it's they probably went through an insane life. So the whole drug thing, I think, pot maybe is different. I think because it's not a stimulant like those other things, cocaine and heroin. Well, I guess maybe heroin's not a stimulant.
I don't know. I know guys who have come on the other side. They've come out of that lifestyle. Guys living in stairwells and stuff like that.
I saw a picture on Facebook. This 12-year-old or some teenager did self-portraits of herself while on an LSD trip.
Yeah.
And the drawings got progressively darker and darker the more she got higher and higher.
Right.
And then you could see the whole phase of being high and then coming out of it. It was really kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Spooky, like, whoa.
Yeah.
Compared to the first one, to the middle one, you're like, shit. Damn.
Yeah.
Got no eyes. Your hair's all like freaked out. It looks like something out of The Exorcist.
It's so funny. Here we are. We're talking about one side of the coin. It's not really fair to all those people who just have the other stories to tell and other experience, and so we might as well switch gears. But speaking of scary stuff.
Groove. Time.
What do you find that you're afraid of, and what makes you scared? And do you set a place at the table for fear and uncertainty, or do you try and fight that stuff off? And conversely, what's your view towards acceptance, and how healthy is all that kind of view? I mean, you're really into yoga and into martial arts.
I've always been into that whole Eastern headspace.
Yeah.
Don't know why. Just appealed to me at a young age. I love the mentality of it, and I was really never a follower of organized religion, so I stayed away from that. From being forced to church as a kid, it's like I don't want to do this. I never saw the point of that. I never dug it.
Did you have to go to church when you moved to Canada?
Yeah. My mom kept trying to. She said it was her biggest failure in life that I was not part of the church.
Oh my God! Right. What an embarrassment.
Yeah, me.
Disgrace.
Disgrace.
Ugh.
So I have more esoteric leanings. I like all kinds of different sort of alternative theories, let's say.
Right.
You know, but
A little more modern, I guess you could say.
well, I don't know if it's more modern. I'm sure people felt this way hundreds of years ago as well.
Right.
You know, even before religion was even around. You know, they were believing in nature or trees or sun
Yeah.
gods and stuff.
The ultimate
right? But,
religion.
give me that part of that question again. It was so long.
Well, you know, generally speaking,
Oh,
is
fear.
Fear. Yeah.
Fear is funny. I have a funny relationship with fear, as in that I don't know that I have too much of it. If I have fear, it's the fear of being stricken by a horrible disease like my mother,
Right.
ALS. I didn't even know what that was, and then I watched her fade away into nothingness over the course of 3 years. And
Sorry, is that an
eventually-
Alzheimer's or what is that?
No, it's
ALS?
ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease.
Lou Gehrig's.
It's a neuromuscular disease where your brain is intact, but your body,
Right.
it doesn't. You can't get nutrients from food to the muscles, and the muscles atrophy, and then before you know it, you can't walk, you can't speak,
Yeah.
you can't do anything, you can't lift your arms. So watching that, it was a horrible, slow way, not painful, but slow, just knowing you're going to die.
Yeah.
So I had skin cancer in '95. That's it. I'd say the only thing that ever pops into my head is that. That's if I fear anything, I fear that. But I had skin cancer in '95, and I remember talking to the doctor about it. And it took me 6 months because my girlfriend at times kept saying, "This mole looks weird in the middle of your back," something I never would have seen.
Right.
Right? And she said, "Looks funny. Go and check." I'm like, yeah, "Okay." 6 months it took me before I went to a dermatologist.
Oh,
I walk
man.
in, yeah, my girlfriend's bugging me about this thing on my back. And,
Yeah.
okay, well, yeah, it looks kind of funny. I'll do a skin graft and we'll get back to you. Okay, she didn't seem that it was a big deal, so I don't think it's a big deal. I'm doing Tommy, I'm playing the pit. I get a page and I call my message. She's like, call this number ASAP. So I call, it's the doctor at the hospital. Mr. Kelso, you have a malignant melanoma in your back.
Oh,
we need to
man.
get you into surgery ASAP. Tomorrow, 2 p.m.?
Oh.
And I'm still thinking, benign malignant, is that the bad one or the,
Yeah.
I'm confused by the word malignant.
Right.
And then she goes, surgery. It's like, it's the bad one.
Oh.
You have skin cancer. It's like, put the phone down. I went back to play the second half of the thing. And
Oh.
I was like, what's up? And I have skin cancer. Holy shit,
Yeah.
So I go in and they do the whole thing. And the thing with skin cancer is, and from there, that I didn't know, is it spreads topically, but it also goes down. It goes in all directions. And if it goes down into your liver or lungs or anything, that's what you're toast. Right? Which so they got to get at it right away. So they went in, they take this big chunk out. It looks like a giant piece of sushi.
Oh.
Right? And they threw it in this dish beside me, all
It's
bloody.
that big.
Yeah, it was like, this thick and about, like almost about the size of a piece of sushi.
Holy
So I
cow.
got a scar about that big in my back. Right?
Oh.
And they throw this thing in the dish beside me, and I'm like, do I have a hole in the back? And they're like, yeah, you do. And I thought, they said, don't worry, it'll grow back, and it'll, the skin and everything will be fine. It's like, okay. And I said, tell me something. Would this have killed me? He said, eventually, yeah.
Wow.
It would have killed you. So that's '95. So, quite some time ago.
And so now you just get checked out.
And I checked for 10 years, and there was no reoccurrence. And I just said, okay, fine. I just keep my skin out of the sun.
Yeah.
Especially my back. I would never go swimming without a T-shirt or something on, just covering
Right.
it.
It's only
Don't
every
even
10
know-
years that you have to get checked out?
10 years, you go every year
Wow.
for 10 years. And so when I came out of there, I'd always heard about, if you are afraid of death, you can't live.
Yeah.
I'd read books like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the
Yeah.
Egyptian Book of the Dead, and their whole thing was about fearing death is wrong.
Yep.
It's going to come. And as Roberto says, no one gets out alive.
Right.
I love that quote. It's funny. So I kind of, I don't have any fear of that kind of stuff. Even though I said fear of, it'd be more not of dying, but of the way.
Yeah.
For me, fast would be better. But I don't go out of my way to go, I'm not going to walk under a ladder.
Yeah,
There's
you
a
had
black
to, you have to
cat.
think about it, the stuff that you're afraid
Yeah,
of.
you just go, you know what? I was actually like, death, you missed. Nice try. And I stuck my finger out, and so I don't fear talking about things like that where people are like, you can't say shit like that. It's bad karma.
Yeah.
It's not. I just don't fear it.
Right.
I don't give a shit. I'm going to die at some point. We're all going to die.
Yeah.
You're not afraid of dying? No, I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of dying slowly. So, but music, I don't have any fear.
No fear of music.
I don't have any fear of music. In fact, I love going into situations where people would normally be afraid.
Yeah.
And I remember playing this was Paquito de Rivera, the great Cuban saxophone player, and we're playing Humber, and he comes over to me and he goes, we didn't rehearse, right? He just comes over and he goes on stage, tango, jing 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 jing, and he walks away. I'm thinking, what kind of a tango is that? I never heard of that in my life. And so he counts to 2, and I go jing 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 jing, and I'm playing this fast thing, but the bass is going boom boom bing boom boom bing jing 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 jing. So you got your hands doing double time and half time on my feet. Luckily, I'd played a similar groove before, so it came quite naturally.
Right.
But the student asked me, he says, "Mark, that groove, what did Paquito say to you, and how did you just do that on the fly?" And I said, "Well, it's a combination of having really good technique." And being really relaxed, motivated by fear. And they laughed, and I said, yeah, because Paquito said, do this, and I didn't want to disappoint him and play something bad, so I said, I guess I got to do it. Right? Which goes back to Bruce Lee, and there's no doing, there's no trying, or Yoda. There's no trying.
No try, only do.
doing. So I got that backed up.
Isn't it interesting,
Backed
though,
up,
that
messed up.
the older you get, though, the further away you get from the physical experience of real discomfort, you know. But like when you're younger, being in a situation, maybe it's you're playing on TV for the first time, where you do not feel like yourself.
Yeah,
you know,
you get the butterflies and stuff.
really bad.
For me, I got the butterfly. If I didn't get butterflies, I was more concerned.
Yeah.
Because I just started to recognize every time I got the butterfly sensation, it always went fine.
Yeah, yeah.
And I recognized that early. I don't know how, but the odd time I didn't get butterflies, I'd be like, where's that sensation in my gut? I don't have it.
Right.
Oh, shit. I don't, why am I not, you know?
Yeah.
So I never really get nervous.
I have a silly little theory that, well, actually what's happening with the fight or flight is if you study animals and what happens with them when they're afraid,
They become stronger.
well,
They're more dangerous.
They become faster, and it's because they shit their pants and they can run faster. So that's why fear
Lose
goes.
weight?
Yeah, literally, a whole flock of birds will drop. You know, they'll drop a half a pound of what.
I've seen some dogs do that.
Yeah.
Frighten them. Boop.
Yeah.
Right.
You know the old expression, I shit my pants.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so you can run faster, my friend. But that's why fear goes to the stomach, I think, and
Yeah.
that's where we feel it. It's not a mental thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Now I put myself into scary situations just for fun.
Yeah.
You know, I can't make the rehearsal. I did this cancer benefit there a few days, or a week ago or so, and I couldn't make the rehearsal. So the other drummer sight read the whole big band
Right.
thing, and did the whole first half of the rehearsal.
Yeah.
And I came in as they played the last song, and I said, okay, so no rehearsal for Mark. I'll just
Yeah.
cut the gig. And I was, again, a little cocky. The guys are like, you okay? You good for those things? I said, I'll sight read it
Yeah.
perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they looked at me and went, son of a bitch. And I think I did. I messed up one ending because I couldn't see. So I actually went, I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to literally sight read an entire big band set of 10 songs. I'll look at the music just to make sure there's no surprises, but I'm not going to study the music and overthink it. I'm just going to go up and do it. I'm going to test myself. I suppose it's risky, but I like the challenge.
But let's be honest for a second. Like if we're talking about 150 years ago, where there's really no alternative, there's no recorded music.
No.
Everyone's sight reading their asses off.
Big time.
For them, it's no big deal. They're just reading English. You
Yeah.
know, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that we are so far away from that skill now. But
It's one of my biggest pet peeves.
damn right, because
Sight-
it's so damn useful to be able to read.
Well, yeah.
And sight reading is the last. It's the last thing that people. It's the first thing that they let go of.
Or don't even start.
Don't even
The
start.
thing is, I don't even know why it's such a big deal where they don't work on it. It just seems like common sense.
Yeah.
But yeah,
What do they say to you? What are their
I guess
excuses?
I need to work on that more.
But why? But why do they
Because
say
they're working
that?
on other things.
Yeah.
They're working on other things.
Right.
And to be fair, at school, you're hit with a lot of stuff. So sometimes, they don't do it. They go, oh, okay. But I'd say, look, 15 minutes a day would
Yeah.
make the difference in 3 months. Be
Why don't
huge
they
difference.
get that? I mean, when I was in high school, I was overtaught reading. It went over my head, and I just didn't believe in it. And I was just your regular guy.
Yeah.
Just reading it just didn't stick with me.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a situation you're probably dealing with every day. How do you, stay true to what you believe in?
I torture them.
Good.
I torture them. You can ask any one of them to say, yeah, talk about Mark's little sight reading test. Okay, we got 5 pages of the same thing, and you can't look at it. 5 guys, boom, 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 stand up. 5 guys stand up, and they get up, and they stand there and say, ready? I'm going to count it in, and you're all going to sight read it. Whoever sight reads it close to perfect gets to sit down.
You are a treasure.
So I find the strong guy, because that's who everybody leans on. They
Right.
follow him.
Yeah.
And then they follow one, they say, and then I ask the students, who gets to sit down? They go, Bill.
Right.
Down you go. And then they're all like,
Yeah.
and they stand up there and they feel awful.
Yeah.
And they feel horrible. And hopefully that kind of ass kicking makes them realize, I don't want to do this again. I don't like being the guy where I get up and I suck like that.
And do you see the results?
Sometimes.
Right.
Not always.
But what about
Sometimes
the...
they just, but everybody's got to learn by themselves. You
Yeah.
can't, it's like telling someone you got to stop drinking or stop smoking.
You're right, right.
You can tell them till they're blue in the face, but cancer in your lungs and,
Yeah.
you know.
They don't get it.
You can't argue with a person who wants to do it.
I asked my dad something. I was going through a hard thing, and I said, how many fucking times do I have to go through this before I learn my lesson? He goes, about 15.
15.
Yeah.
That's the
like
number.
15.
Okay, yeah,
you know,
maybe.
like,
Yeah.
man, like it's incredible how long it takes us to finally get something. But I think with sight reading, reading chart, if you believe in it, it really helps. You know.
Yeah, I mean, there's the argument that, well, it makes you less of a musician, it's more mental. Well,
No,
does
not
reading
when you're fluent.
Does a reading a book make you stupid?
Yeah, God no.
You know?
It's like
No,
only
it
when you're
doesn't.
struggling with it,
Yeah.
right? That it's actually you're aware of it.
It's a way to communicate.
Yeah.
So I was forced into it, luckily, by my Paul Miner, my grade 10 music teacher.
Yeah.
Because in grade 10, we were playing Humber A-band, big band charts. And these tunes came in, there was 6 pages long with 1,016th notes or 8th notes.
Yeah.
Holy shit. And my dad tells the story of, he remembers me coming home going, look at this. And he
Right.
couldn't read music either. He says, just keep at it. You'll get better at it.
Yeah.
And I started to learn, okay, I'd be faking my way through it, right?
Yeah.
Basically playing and Mrs. Shots, and Mr. Miner would go, I knew if it was Mark or Son, whether it was good or bad. Son was always bad. Son, okay, this is more important that I get this figure. And I would try and listen, and as I was watching, missing all the charts, I'd listen and then try and remember what they displayed. And if we got to go over it a second time, be like, okay, so we do this. Okay, da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da. And then I go back, go ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da. Why is it ba-da-ba-da? And I try and figure it out. But I learned to read a lot by myself,
There's
just out of necessity. And it's like, man, it's one of the greatest tools to
It's
have.
another tool, right? And
Yeah.
and I think we kind of we're stuck in this black and white either or situation, this divergent kind of I don't know what you call it, attitude or dynamic that's really misinformed in terms of memory, memorization, and reading. And a lot of guys will just say, okay, well look, I don't want to spend time with reading. I don't believe in the reading. My memory's great. I'm going to keep working on that.
Which
But-
is
great.
fine, because ultimately you want to get to that point anyway.
I know, but sorry, I just want to follow this up because.
Yeah, yeah.
But the thing is, like, your memory is still there. Your memory is like your memorization ability.
Yeah.
It grows, when you continue to work on your memory.
But-
So you've got both.
Yes. I look at it like the alphabet. When you're a little kid and you're learning to read the alphabet, right? Okay. How do you learn the alphabet? You don't just listen to people telling you the alphabet and memorizing it by rote. Now, by the same token, most African music and most South Indian and North Indian music over hundreds of years was taught as an oral tradition. It was not really written down, or maybe if it was X's and O's or some kind of thing. But the written thing is more of a North American concept, I think. Anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but we're learning English, we're learning a language. I think it's easy. You look at it, you see it. Use your eyes to recognize A, B, C, D. I'm doing that with my kids now, or my daughter, she's 2. A, B, C, D. So I see it. I'm using one sense, the visual.
This goes to one part of your brain.
Yeah, and I'm hearing it being sounded out. So people are saying it. So now I'm accessing the same way information 2 ways,
Right.
right? So I hear it, I see it, and then I speak it. So now I'm using sound as a 3rd way to learn the same thing. And then I write it out. So now I'm using touch. So you're using basically 4 of your 5 major senses, with the exception of smell, to access the same information, which makes it stronger, which makes you learn it faster, and makes you retain it better. So you're learning things the same thing 4 different ways.
Is there any way to outsmart your students who really aren't into that you still haven't sold them on this.
Well, then at that point, it's up to them. Everybody's
Right.
got their own path.
Right.
I can't change someone's path.
Right.
If that's what they want to choose to do.
Yeah.
If they don't want to do it, all I can do them is warn them of the pitfalls and say the possibility exists that this might happen, or you get into a session and you're going to get this thing and you can't play it, and you go out with your tail between the legs, and I'm walking in going, oh, hey, how you doing? Couldn't read that chart, eh? All right, see you. And I'm going to go in, I play it in 10 minutes, boom, done, out.
Who's
I
teaching?
remember guys talking about doing 10 rehearsals for one gig. I'm like, what? How
Right.
much you getting paid? Nothing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a lot of time.
That's a lot of
Wouldn't
time.
you rather just walk in and be the guy that sight reads it once and then goes and does the gig? Because that's my experience.
Yeah, and you can even use your own shorthand.
Oh,
If
yeah,
it helps
yeah,
you
yeah.
out, you don't have to do the
Yeah.
strict.
If you look at any chart of mine, they've got 1 million notes on it.
Right.
And if I look at my filing cabinet, I counted the other day, there's about 56 bands worth of music. I can't remember all that stuff.
Yeah.
If you freelance, if you're playing in one band and that's all you do, well, then it's easy to remember stuff. But if you're freelancing and you want to make a living and you're not famous, you got to do all the kinds of gigs and you got to be able to read.
So, but when you're actually reading, man, like you're not reading.
I'm
it's not-
interpreting.
But it's like one note at a time. Like, that's the equivalent of reading in English. My name is
Exactly.
Mark.
And
You're seeing,
and you have to use the same principles.
but you're using peripheral vision.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, you're using peripheral vision and you're reading ahead. You always,
Yeah.
and you're taking a snapshot of the bar
Yeah.
and you're looking ahead.
Like a guy reading a speech. He's not buried into the text.
No, no.
He's like he looks down at the page.
But when
and-
you start, you are.
Yeah.
Right? So part of the problem is when you start reading, you're back to the infancy of ABC.
Right.
And they don't like that. Say,
Yeah.
I suck, this sounds bad.
Yeah.
And then the ego goes, you're better than this.
Yeah.
Do your other stuff that you know, because you really sound bad doing
Yeah.
this reading thing,
And then you become
And
a
you go,
little.
yeah, right, yeah. Now I feel better about myself.
Yeah.
Before I felt shitty.
Yeah,
You know?
you become biased towards music that's more involved, and it's just that would demand more of you to learn it because,
Well, there are guys like Dennis Chambers says he doesn't read.
there are a lot of guys like that.
He's got amazing ears.
But
Fast.
they take it kind of as a point of pride, like,
Yeah. Rich Brown is not
Rich?
a great reader.
yeah,
Are you going to say he's not a good musician?
no, God no.
You can't say that at all.
Yeah.
He's heavy.
Yeah,
He's ridiculously heavy.
Sekou doesn't read.
Sekou.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
bunch of guys, or,
He's
or-
another old guy, right?
oh yeah. Sure, he's gonna be psyched to hear that. Oh man. So speaking of teaching, whose teaching message do you find resonates the most in what you communicate to your students?
Bruce Lee.
There you go.
Oh, Bruce Lee.
Next, what a stupid question. Let me move on. What are some of what were once deeply instilled principles of musicianship that have now been lost as we've transitioned into this new century? What should we seek to regain? What have been positive advances, if any? So talking now about just the quality of music, generally speaking. What are we so obviously missing now?
Well, I think the interaction in certain bands. I've seen some bands recently, famous rock bands, and from talking to the drummer, I said, "Man, you're playing all this killer shit up there, but no one looks at you."
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand. There's
Yeah.
no interaction between the guys in the band. What's going on? He says, "Oh, if they listen to me, they'll get lost. They're just listening to the click."
Right.
I'm like, but part of the band thing is the camaraderie and the fun on stage of looking at some, oh, nice lick, or, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you're killing it tonight. The whole thing's on sequence, and then what happens is where's the jamming?
Yeah.
Where's the fun part?
Yeah.
It's just you play the same show night after night with no variation.
Right.
I couldn't do that.
They do that in other arts, like maybe in acting, but there's still a lot of improvisation in acting.
There would be. You might take a little bit. You might feel a different one way than
Yeah.
another. I mean, I guess there's consistency, obviously. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Who knows?
Let's try and come back and remember to come back to this point, because I have a really important tangent that's not in my list of
Okay.
questions here, but it's just about Latin music and about being, so
Now,
deep
there's
in,
something that thrills me.
totally, and being so into an interactive, part of the world like Cuba, where the percussion is so deep and there's so many people involved, yet there's so much that's potentially lost when it gets reduced to the drum set. And I don't mean to be too offensive about that, but let's be honest. When you have one guy playing tuba, you have the other guy playing segundo, for example, another guy playing quinto, and each drum can give you 3 tones, generally speaking. You have, in any given moment, you have the potential for 12 different sounds. That's sort of like, wouldn't you agree, when you're when you're on stage or you're in a play. We're right over here. We're almost done.
Hey, Bob.
Be right
Hi,
there. Sorry,
I'm just gonna set up and.
Okay, we got to go.
Sorry to ask, guys.
Yeah.
Are you part of an RBA concert? Or?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the band.
Yeah. Security
And
knows
was
us.
that Security
Barney,
knows?
Barney
Yeah.
played all this.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Tammy.
Anyway, okay. So back to this incredible question, Mark. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
But okay, so
Well,
like sorry, no, but just to be clear, like with acting, isn't that sort of like when you take all those parts and you play on the kit with sticks, isn't that sort of like one actor taking the role of 3 or 4 guys in the same play? You know what I mean? Like there's sort
But
of
you have to understand why that happened.
Right.
It's all commerce,
oh, interesting.
right? It's all commerce. It's like we can afford 6 guys, not 10. Okay, well the drummer just became the guy to go to cover the conga and the first guys to who's expendable. Well, if one drummer can do what 3 guys are doing, then we don't need to fire 3 guys, right? So that element of that exists from even going back to double drumming back in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
Well, I play bass drum and I play cymbals and I play snare. Yeah, we can't have that inside. The stages are small. We're moving from outside to inside. The sound is different. Okay, so one guy takes the snare and he puts it on this thing and he plays the bass drum with one stick and he plays the snare on the side of a chair and they go boom, chip, boom, chip, boom,
Yeah.
boom, 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 and they do that and then before you know it, they got the pedal and then it's like, well, we don't even need a bass drum player anymore. Just one guy does it. So
And technology follows those
technology
needs.
follows those trends.
Right.
And then you've got the modern day drum kit. And then all of a sudden guys say, oh, I want to play like that. And you see some of the Changuito play timbales and all the cowbells and some congas and the bass drum. You're like, well, I don't play congas or timbales, but let me put that onto the drum kit because it's challenging and cool and fun. And so the percussion folkloric parts come over to the drum kit because not every part of the world is going to have 6 conga players who can play those 3 parts.
Right.
Okay, let's do a rumba. Okay, I know the tumbadora part, I know the quinto soloing, and I'll play the conga. We don't. For a while there, we didn't have that. Now, with the cultural influx of all the Cubans and Brazilians here,
Yeah.
we actually have those bands. So
Yeah.
it's more traditional, but at the same token, the music has grown at the same time. And the drum set parts have grown. So the guys playing with left foot clave, left foot cascara, and crazy stuff like that.
Left foot cascara.
Yeah, guys. Yeah, that's old. That's even like 10 years old.
You're kidding.
No, man, it's mental,
Holy cow.
right? They're just doing so many things. Got timbales, and they're going right hand, left hand,
Yeah.
and singing. He's singing. If they could dance, they would.
They're
And you're
just so
going-
killer, man.
You're just going,
Yeah.
But then you look at like Cuba. What kind of environment did they live in?
Right.
Well, when I went to some guy's house, they didn't have a TV. They didn't even have a VCR, DVD, or anything.
Yeah.
So you go, these guys have no distractions.
Yeah.
All they do is practice
Right.
all day long.
Yeah.
Because it's too hot to do anything else. I can't go to a movie theater. I can't go hang out and do whatever. I'm going to practice. And they also know if I practice well enough, I can get the hell out of this
Right.
communist regime
Yeah.
and see around of the world. I can make some money. I can experience life.
Yeah.
So look at all the baseball players. Why are all the best baseball players from Cuba?
Yeah.
Because it's a matter of life and death to them.
And rights.
As opposed
and
to
real
some
rights.
kid who's on the street here, I'm just going to play baseball. I want to be really good. This guy's fighting for way more than this guy.
I wasn't a political guy until I went to Cuba for the first time.
It's heavy, eh?
Holy crap.
It's heavy.
Speaking of real fast, then we'll just we'll
Wrap it up.
Yeah, but probably the best Cuban drummer I ever saw was actually the drummer for Los Bambam, because
Oh, no.
he
That's-
just
yeah, yeah,
disappeared,
yeah.
man.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was just playing the stuff.
Everything. It's like 10 guys, right?
It was unreal.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't playing a lot. It was just he was playing what was needed.
He's the
most essential.
son, right? He's the son of the original father who was the original drummer.
Yeah, and there's 18 other guys on stage.
Juan, oh God, I forgot.
Juan Formel.
Juan Formel.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Anyway, man, well, okay. All right, moving on here. So we're talking about gigs here in this lovely setting. Still at the Four Seasons. We're running out of time here now. What are the best gigs to you, Mark? The ones that are just, so clearly worth all your time, energy.
Ones that pay shitloads of cash. No, I'm kidding. I joke. No, for me, it's simple. If I'm playing with really great musicians and I'm playing fun music, It's that simple. And
We're getting some snare buzz, man. Sorry, can you just, yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
yeah, and I'm playing with like guys that I love playing with, and if music feels good,
Yeah.
you know, it's challenging, it's fun. There's a lot of creativity, a lot of improvisation, and just the vibe is good. Everybody's having fun. You know, if it's a funk thing, we're making people dance, adds to it. If it's a jazz thing, and we're really being creative and pushing the boundaries of rhythm and harmony and anything, just having lots of fun. You know.
We were talking about interplay earlier, and I remember hearing Dennis Chambers being asked about, you know, like the stuff that he was listening to, and he said, God, I listened to stuff from the 70s. And that's it, because that's when guys were playing, you know.
You know, I'm almost as guilty as he is of the same thing.
But do you feel like is it really guilt? You know, is it?
Well, it feels like guilt because I think at this point I should be listening to the modern stuff. But when I listen to modern stuff, most of it sounds kind of either derivative of the 70s
Yeah.
or I can't tell. The thing that bugs me the most is I can't tell if someone played that anymore.
It's
like,
kind of a
does
problem.
That drummer, if I'm listening to checking out a drummer,
Yeah.
did he really play that? Because
Yeah.
that's heavy. If he did, or is it Pro Tools to pieces? And you know, I'd have to see them live to really gauge whether I like it or not. To see
Yeah.
because is it bullshit but with production or
We're back. Sorry about that. Full memory card. Okay.
I can't
Oh,
work
jeez.
with this.
I know. These conditions. God damn it, these conditions. Look where we are. There's no crew. It's just one camera guy. Yeah. All right. So we were talking right there. What were we going on about?
Forgotten that
Help me out. Oh,
Yeah,
jeez.
I lost
It was about the technique involved in making music, and that technique now
Oh, in the
disappearing.
70s.
The 70s, and it was about production. We were talking about not being able to tell if music
Yeah,
is.
yeah. So in those records, you could pretty much tell what those guys went in and played the song start to finish,
Yeah.
and maybe not a lot of overdubs,
Right.
you know, or maybe there were. I don't know, but you know, you listen to it and you can tell that the guys are in the same room, and because there's a magic that happens when everybody plays together rather than everybody overdubbing and layering and going, oh, I know the perfect thing to play here because you paid this already, rather than it happening on the spot. You know, like, you know, listen to the James Brown stuff, the Sly and the Family Stone stuff, the John Coltrane stuff. I mean, just listen to it and go, damn, they were playing that live.
Yeah.
And virtuosity, why is it like, you know, why is it actually a surprise when someone can sing in tune?
Right.
Because so many people can't, or when so many people, they sing so many licks and so many things, embellishments, you're going, it's good, but if I'm going to listen to Luther Vandross or Stevie Wonder or Donny Hathaway do that.
Are we losing our ability to craft music that's, you know, that's on the same level of quality as the hits from the 50s, 60s?
I don't know. I don't know. I can tell you from experience that people play differently when there's more on the line.
Right.
And I experienced that on a session one time where the guy said, you know what, I got a 2-inch machine and we just inherited all this 2-inch tape for fun. Why don't we do half the record on 2-inch for fun? And it was like, brought back all the memories of, because everything was digital, you know, it's so easy. Non-destructive punching and editing, it's easy, 1,000,000 takes. We could put 3 takes on one 2-inch tape. And just hearing it start up going, I was like, oh my God, I hadn't heard that sound in so long. And it was the engineer who pointed out, you guys play better on tape
Yeah.
because it's harder to fix.
What happens on the
So there's
fourth
more-
take? You know, some
Depends.
rigor mortis kicks in. Some guys argue that, or
No,
just
no. I'm the type of guy who's good for the first four takes. My concentration's at a high level,
yeah.
so I play my best in early takes, and then I start making mistakes.
But most people are like that, Mark. That's what I'm saying, man.
No. Some people take 2 or 3 takes to get warmed up, and then
Oh.
they're good on the 5th or 6th take. And
Oh, really?
Now you're making clams, and you're like, this one was better for me. Yeah, but this was better for me.
Right.
It's my record. Okay. Can we do it again? I'll try not to make the same mistakes. So that was one of the things that I thought was different, you know, because everybody doing their thing and playing together and knowing that there's more on the line because you had to play good.
Right.
Right now, it's like you don't have to play good anymore. You don't have to be that good because they can go, we can cut this one bar out, loop it, and cut it and paste it. Now the whole thing is steady. The time is great, and essentially someone else is creating a Frankenstein monster.
Yeah.
Frankenstein monster with your drum track. I hate that. I hate to have someone have the ability to go, I don't like this fill here. I want to play it here. Well, I constructed it because of my experience as a musician, as a drummer. I think this should be here. I don't really like you changing it, changing my artistic statement,
Yeah.
you know?
And they can change how your drums sound, you know.
Yeah.
That was happening in the 80s a lot.
Yeah, we can sample your bass drum and beat replacement or something. You're like,
Yeah.
why? Because of the ring. The ring's part of the sound, man.
Yeah.
It's a jazz record. You want that ring. It's part of the sound. I mean, haven't you listened to Elvin's, you know, all those jazz records? Boom, boom, boom. There's a tone and there's a high-pitched ring. That's part of the sound.
Now,
Yeah, your snare's got too much overtone.
Totally.
It's the sound, man.
Yeah.
I like it.
We're now pretty far along into this, it's not a debate, but this this new paradigm of, you know, we're in a digital world now with technology for the most part. And, you know, this debate really started up in the 90s of this a debate on the level of ethics. Like, wait a sec, like you're saying my integrity here is you're really fucking with who I am. You know, this is personal, right?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And but you know, we're kind of not me because you're older than I am, but you're kind of bemoaning. We're like the guys who were probably bemoaning these technological advances in the 60s, 70s.
We've seen major changes
Yeah.
in my generation. Has seen massive changes, unlike we've seen, maybe in the last 10, 20 years.
Right, but my question, sorry, it's more to do with drawing comparisons between when you are looking at the younger generation and you're saying this is how it used to be and it was better. You know, sorry, is there?
I'm not even going to say that it was better.
Okay.
I'm going to say I'm glad I came up through that, to have experienced it, because
Right.
you guys will never experience that, and
Right.
it's so different.
Yeah,
It's different because when you go in and you think, I don't need to nail it because it can be fixed, or I can spend 2 days. Just give me the tracks and I'll come back with a perfect guitar track in 2 days.
it's complicated.
Back then, you couldn't do that because it cost $350 an hour in the studio.
Yeah.
So you had to go in and nail it first or second take, and then you'd move on, and that was your only chance. There wasn't this luxury of, give me the files and I'll do my thing at home, and then you put it on. And I mean, I've heard records come out of the Humber studio by the students, and you know what? They sound great. But these kids can still play,
Yeah,
and they still care about being good on their instrument.
one argument I hear is that, okay, well, we've lost a certain character from, you know, in this transition, we've lost a few things over here, but, you know, something else has crept in. And I guess, you know, we're sort of on the sidelines watching these transitions happen, you know, and in a way, it's, what I'm wondering is, do you ever feel like, now like those guys who were, you know, in their 50s and they grew up in a time of no splicing, you know, stuff like that. No tape splicing. There's no tape edits. You know, the whole band, the whole orchestra is live, man.
Well, yeah, going back to the 40s and 50s,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
hear those Carl Stalling records, and those guys are sight reading
Yeah.
cartoon music,
Yeah,
and they're sight reading, and it's heavy.
Yeah.
It's so hard. There's a tempo change every 4 bars,
right.
and they're just sight reading that shit. You just go, wow, virtuosity.
Yeah.
And to them, it was like just another day at the office.
They can't wait to get on the golf course.
Yeah. There's another, more money for me. That'll run. So, it's different, but that's it. Time changes. Things move forward. It has to. Otherwise, again, we become stagnant and stale and die. So it has to change. And you look at. In a way, I almost feel like probably how parents did in the 50s when rock and roll came.
Yeah.
Because that was a major change coming out of the jazz and R&B scene. When rock and roll hit, I mean, there was quite a clashing of heads between the youth and the older generation. And I kind of sort of maybe see that happening to me, because you think when you're younger, I'm always going to be hip.
Right.
But then when you get there and you're older and you go, I don't really dig it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I like this better, and you listen to it, and then the kids go, eh. And you're going, no, this is heavy. Listen to that.
Yeah.
Eh, I like this better.
You can't fake
It's-
it with music, right?
No, you can't fake it with
Yeah.
music. You can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sex, yeah, but not me. Or so I'm told anyway.
Describe a truly wonderful, ideal day in your world. What gets you really excited and fires you up as a professional?
Oh, I was going to say just hanging out with my kids. It's a great day.
Great answer.
and coming home and having my daughter go, "Daddy," that's a great day. And then going into my son going, "You're not going to say hello? Come on, son." He's like, "Oh, hi, Daddy. I'm playing Minecraft."
Tell me about your wife and any support strategies she might employ to best see that you remain uninhibited as a freelancer in this busy, busy world.
Well, I think she knew from a previous relationship where the poor lady in question asked me to make a choice.
Yeah.
And I just said, "Look, don't make that choice. You or drums. What do I put more important? Don't ask that."
Mm-hmm.
And she did, and I just went drums.
Yeah.
And I think she knew the answer was coming. I don't think she was prepared for how quickly it came.
Yeah.
Music's a cruel mistress. You can't take someone away who's born to play music and play drums. You can't stop them, no matter what. I'm a lifer. You'd have to cut both my arms off, and then who knows, I'd still dance, or I don't know. But my wife is awesome, but she knows that, I'm going to be traveling at some point. Going in, you have to basically say, look, there's going to be times when you're at home at night by yourself, and you're going to be dealing with the kids by yourself if I'm on the road, or,
Even when you're in town, you're the busiest guy. You're just the most active, hands down. Maybe Davide, but you're at the top of the pyramid.
Most of the guys I know work a lot.
Okay.
Most of the guys I work a lot. I don't know if I work any more or less than any of the other fine guys in the city.
What
But,
fine guys?
Fine guys, there's
Who?
a million. If I say them, I might leave somebody out. But, Davide and,
I was just
and
kidding.
DeLong and God, my God.
There's so many.
There's so many. All the guys that teach with me, Barry and Steve,
Yeah.
and there's a million guys. Larnell, of course. You might have heard of him. Larnell Lewis,
For him.
young upstart.
Snarky puppy right now.
Yeah.
He's going places.
He is going far.
Yeah. But I forced Larnell to read.
Oh, did you?
I busted his butt. If you ask him, he'll say, "Yeah, Kelso busted my ass to read," and he thanked me for it years later. He said, "Thank you."
Yeah.
Because he was an ear guy, and I said, "You need to learn to read," and now he's a great reader. He's an amazing reader.
It just reading. It comes up again and again and again. Notation. Everyone's using it, and you better just get with the program as a drummer,
I think so. It hasn't completely deteriorated to no music yet.
Yeah.
I
Want to switch gears real fast and talk about, would you agree the difference between talent and skill is actually something there's a pronounced difference there. And because you're in a teaching position, you probably have to deal with parents asking you if little Timmy is, talented.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's more like, why didn't little Timmy get into your program?
Right.
Because every teacher says he's fantastic. Well, because the other 120 guys were better than him from all across the country.
What do you mean by better?
Well, they got better time. They soloed. They're stronger soloists. They're more versatile.
Yeah.
They cut the criteria better at a higher level. They're
Yeah.
brushes. They can play brushes. They actually brought the brushes with them. They can sight read and play things. I mean, I've seen everything. But the thing that strikes me the most, I think, about success out of school.
Yeah.
This was the one I was not prepared for. I just assumed talent would win every single time. And I was surprised that it didn't. Because I've had some students come through and I went, man, I don't see much of a future for them. And yet there they are working because they hustle.
So talent
They
is
hustle,
yeah.
and they talk a good game, and they're out there working maybe twice as hard as the talented guy.
Right.
Because they have to.
Yeah.
They know I'm not as good as that guy, and I've had discussions with guys going, "Oh, I already know I'm not as good as so and so. So I'm working now."
And by good, you mean
now,
not as much
and
of natural.
Yeah, I don't have as much chops, or maybe
Yeah.
they equate it to how fast you can play, or how oh man,
Talent.
I better work on
Yeah.
natural talent to play anything on the drums. So maybe I need to. I'm going to work on my networking skills, and if people like me, and I cut the gig enough, because I tell my students, look. You know what people ask when they're talking about going on the road? Yeah, I assume if you're recommending him, he's a good player. That's a given. You're not going to give me someone who can't play. But I really know if is he a nice person? Is he sane?
Yeah.
Can I room on a bus with this person for 6 weeks without wanting to kill him and then you afterwards for recommending
6 days.
Or 6 days. Are they going to be a maniac?
Yeah.
Like what's this person like personality-wise? That's a big part of it.
6 days is a long time to be.
Are they responsible? Are they going to be drunk on the gig? Are they going to be stoned? Are they
Yeah.
going to look dressy? Are they going to look proper for the gig? You know.
Yeah.
So non-musical things are taken into consideration almost as much as musical.
Right.
You know. So as I said, there have been talented guys who have gone, man, this guy's killer, and then they disappear, and I'm like. Oh, and I see them, hey, how's it going, man? Like, I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen it on the scene or Facebook. So, yeah, I'm just going for the jazz thing, and man, I just couldn't make any money. So I'm in a wedding band right now, just doing that.
Yeah.
But at least and I'm teaching, and but at least I'm playing drums.
Yeah, sure.
But it's totally not what they expected.
Yep.
And I said,
It's life.
Therein is the reality of the music business.
Damn right.
I would have bet $1 million, I would not be where I am right now
Right.
in terms of teaching in Humber, being the head of the department.
Yeah.
You could have bet me $1 million. I would have taken that bet and said, you got to be kidding me.
Right.
I'm a player, man. I don't teach.
Well, you're still a player.
Well, I'm still a player.
Yeah.
But I had no idea.
So talent, I mean, would you agree? Talent helps you acquire skill at a faster rate than if you're not talented, basically. It's like you have more
well,
mighty
there's a lot-
chlorons. Like
I can say you can be talented,
Yeah.
really good at what you do. You can be a really good businessman networking, or you can just be really lucky.
right? Yeah.
There's guys out there who can't play, and they're in big famous bands.
Or a combination of those three.
Or
Or
for
all
me,
three.
I approach Bruce Lee. I want a bit of everything.
Yeah.
You know, I can play, I can talk and be
Yeah.
friendly and personable with people.
Yeah.
And then I can bullshit my way through things that if I need to.
Yeah.
You know, so I apply all three.
Right. Okay, sorry, just reading questions down here. We're almost done. Okay, what's next for live video and recording platforms? Will it get any easier to freelance internationally as translation software improves, for example, and video recording softwares develop? Will we be sending tracks to India and China soon?
You can do that now.
Right.
You can do that now. I think where the problem lies, because I was talking to Stanton Moore about this and Aaron Spears when I was at the Regina Drum Festival, and I was talking about, I was thinking of doing a DVD, an instructional DVD. And, everybody says you can't make any money. If you want to invest money and look at it as a money garnering thing, you can't do it. You can't make any money anymore because of downloading, illegal downloading. You put it out there, one person buys it, it's on the internet, everybody's got it, it's all downloaded, it's done.
Right.
He said what it can do is raise your profile. It's a calling card. If you want to get into drum festivals and get more international recognition, then by all means do it, but knowing that you can't make money too much from the physical product. I think video sales, my friend, Jeff Salem, my buddy, I think was saying that one of the companies, I don't know if it was DCI or Hudson, their video sales were down 70%
Yep,
over
sure.
the last 2 years.
Sure. Yep.
70% is massive.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
From where they were.
From where they were,
Wow.
when you needed to have a VCR and you had to go
Remember
and
that?
watch it.
Yeah.
You know,
80s with the
And then
VHS.
the DVD is great, and now, once everything got online, I can't remember the last time I bought a physical CD.
Yeah, I know.
The
But what's the-
mediums have changed.
Can you? I mean, there's a bit of a blind spot, I guess. The only people who can see where we're headed are the entrepreneurial types, I think.
Yeah,
And they
absolutely.
that's how their minds work.
Yeah.
They're designed to just
Yeah.
they plow ahead,
Yeah.
and nothing stops them.
Yeah.
But is there anything like for our industry that's clearly coming down the pipe? I mean, I think we got a lot of video coming towards us and live streaming.
I don't even know what the next medium is,
Right.
Next to having MIDI cables in their neck or something. I fear that. I don't know what the next medium is. I mean, I'm playing more acoustic music than ever and making less money, but
That's so funny.
but musically it's so rewarding.
And people pick up on it. That this is real.
Well,
There's a
people
lot of commitment.
They see me play, they always say, you look like you're having so much fun.
Yeah.
And I am, man. I'm having way more fun than anybody half the
Yeah.
time. Even when I'm with my ensemble, my Groove Merchants Funk Ensemble, they ask, why are you up on stage with the students? It's because it's fun. I'm up there dancing.
Yeah.
Why would I want to sit and listen when I could be involved and actively
Yeah.
participating, even if I'm just waving my hands for
Yeah.
the odd horn shot? I have way more fun.
Why do you think it's called playing?
Exactly. I'm having more fun being involved than I actually am. And I mean, that happened to me in Cuba, right?
Yeah.
When I first saw my first Roomba, I was at the back of like a couple of hundred people. I was like, oh my God, I gotta get closer.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I gotta get closer. And I kept pushing my way through and elbowing people. It's like kind of doing some Rob Ford maneuvering. pushing my way through to get to the front. And I finally got a seat at the front, and it was cordoned off with a rope. I'm like, gosh,
Rabid animal.
big time. It was heavy, man. It was heavy. Like
Yeah.
it was almost a religious, well, say spiritual experience for me.
Yeah.
So the woman came along, and now she's trying to get people to come into the circle to dance where the band is. And I'm like, get over here. Pick me. And everybody's like, oh, no, no. And she goes to me, and I'm like, whoa, I dive in, and I'm up. And she goes, okay, dance. Now I know where the clave is. I can hear the time, and they're playing the kata and the mawa pattern. And I'm going, cool. So I just start dancing. I start clapping clave, and this woman's face was beautiful. She was like, check out the white guy. Look, and then she started dancing with me and singing, and it was like I literally started almost crying.
Yeah.
It was such an emotional, like even if I talk about it, I get like my eyes get watery.
You found your tribe, man.
It was a heavy thing. I felt like I'd been transported back to some place in Africa.
Yeah.
Because the Rumba stuff has all got African hard roots, and I felt like this is exactly what it would have sounded like and felt thousands and thousands of years ago.
Totally.
Maybe the sounds were different, but the vibe and the whole, it was heavy. And I just came out of there like almost wanting to cry, bawling.
And the music
I
wasn't
left.
for sale either, right?
No, it was for sale. I bought everybody's CD.
No, but I mean that vibe is not
No,
for sale,
no, no.
you know?
But I mean, they were selling their thing for $1.
Right.
Selling their CDs for $1. I was like, there's 6 bands. I bought them all. I paid $20 each. I said, this is ridiculous. Take $20. And I bought that. And I came home and I listened to nothing but Rumba for like 3 months.
Oh,
I drove
man.
everybody nuts.
Yeah.
And Roberto and Hilario were like, you are not allowed to go back to Cuba because you're out of control. It's like, oh man, it's like, feed me. It was heavy. It was heavy.
What gear do you own or have you played that simply turns your heart to butterscotch? You know, you're sitting on an airplane, you really feel like playing drums. What's the stuff what gear are you thinking of?
I've played Yamaha since 1985.
Yeah.
And I don't see me changing. I love Yamaha. I've met Hagi, the mentor and founder of the drums
Of course.
Yamaha, who's a genius, a beautiful man. And the craftsmanship, I've been to the Sakai where they used to make the drums. They don't make them there now. But I've seen the craftsmanship and the perfection and the detail into making drums. And it's like just how it all works. I've played Yamaha because I saw Steve Gadd and I was a Steve Gadd freak.
Yeah.
And I wanted that black piano finish, 2 double hanging floor toms.
Right.
I thought that was the coolest thing in the planet. Didn't matter how much it cost. It was like, I need to save the money to pay for that because I want that Rolls Royce.
Were they recording customs?
Recording customs.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I still have them in my studio at home.
Right.
They sound killer. Still record beautifully.
Yeah.
So I did that. So I've been Yamaha for since '85. So nearly 30 years. Wow.
Yeah.
I've been Remo my whole life.
Yeah.
And
Cymbals that really just make you melt.
it's the Pisces.
Yeah.
I played Sabian for a number of years. And They make great cymbals, and Zildjian make great cymbals. There's the Boss Fest. There's a lot of great cymbals, but Pisces was something that was almost, when I was younger, was unattainable. They were so expensive, and I just couldn't afford them. And then when I had the opportunity to go with Pisces, I jumped at the chance. And then they came out with their Masters collection, the 20 series. And for me, it was all over. I've had these cymbals for two and a half years maybe, and I haven't played anything else. These
Mark,
cymbals, I just die. And my sticks, Headhunter, Canadian made. Dave Rundle, shout out to Dave.
Yeah.
They were the old power tips, if you remember. The last thing I just had was I was almost finished sticks. Did you?
we're talking about headhunters.
Yeah.
We're just talking about gear that you love. For some guys, it's one guitar. You know.
Yeah.
Is there a part of the kit or a snare drum?
I love this.
Like what leaves
snare-
what
the
what gets
snare
thrown
has-
out of the house if the house is on fire? What's the first
Yeah.
thing? You know.
I would die for my cymbals.
There you go. That's what I was
The
wondering
cymbals
about.
would be irreplaceable. I mean, after my kids, of course.
You can hit them, but it's not the same
I
thing.
could throw them out the window and then die for the cymbals. Yeah, I would hate to lose these cymbals, for sure.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's all material
Yeah.
things, but I think cymbals are the hardest to replace. Drums, you can get good drums, especially if the quality's good and they're made in such a way that they're, all high quality. You know, it's like another great maple snare drum. You know, I wouldn't like to lose any of my stuff, but I would. The cymbals would be particularly painful to lose.
Mark, I want to thank you for a great interview, man, and have
my
a great
pleasure.
show.
My pleasure.